All right, kiddos, this is it. I'm really excited to see what you can bring to me on Monday with your final drafts. I wanted to go over a few things with you to make sure that you know what my expectations are. Okay, sorry for that little mess up there. Okay, so I want you to get the Monster Essay Final Draft Checklist. If you go into our haiku page and you go under the essay tab, let me show you just to make sure we're all clear. So I'm on my haiku page, right? I go under They Say, I Say, Research Essay. There's a tab now under Research Essay called Final Paper Reminders. And when you go to this tab, what you're going to see is a screencast from Mrs. Akers. It is imperative that you watch this and you do exactly what she has said for you to do. This tells you how to get a proper works cited page out of Noodle. I want those pages to be just exactly correct. The other thing that you'll want to do is to notice that this checklist that I'm getting ready to go over is linked over here on the right side of the page. All right, let's talk about the checklist. So get that checklist, open it up, and then let's look at it together. The checklist is really, really handy, I think. So I want you to look at the style reminders, the grammar reminders, and the diction reminders on the front side of the page. And then on the back side of the page is, I guess you'd call it a kind of rubric. There are 5 topics. Each of those is worth about 20 points, and that will total 100 points for your grade on this essay. And I want you to take a look and make sure that you've done what I've asked you to do. On the front side of that page, in the kind of reminders section, I'll give you lots of page numbers and sections in your They Say, I Say book to go and review. I'm going to highlight a few of those things. Before I do that, though, let me be very clear. When you turn in your final draft on Monday, I want you to have the essay printed out before you walk in my room. And I want you to make sure that you have your rough draft, your peer evaluation sheet, the one that someone else filled out for you, and I want you to make sure that you have any articles that you included in your paper that are not currently on Noodle. Those are to be printed out and included. If they're in Noodle, then you don't need to worry about it. And any other material that you have that goes with your essays, any additional rough drafts, outlines, work, material, articles, anything. If it's not on Noodle, I want it included in one packet and turned into me on Monday. All right, now let me review a few of the things from the checklist. You need to make sure you have your They Say, I Say books with you. They're going to come in very handy. Let me first talk a little bit about the introductions and conclusions. I want you to take a look at chapter 7 in your They Say, I Say book. We haven't really talked a whole lot about introductions and conclusions, and we're not going to worry about them too much, but it's really time to start thinking about them some. So your introduction and your conclusion need to kind of work together to obviously open and close the essay. I want the introduction, the opening, to be compelling. It should make me care about the topic. It should make me want to continue to read the essay. Surprise me. Say something powerful. Say something interesting, for goodness sake. Don't start with the same first sentence that you think everybody else will have. Now, you could certainly go into chapter 1, the summarizing what others are saying, and use some of those templates as a nice way to open. But there are plenty of other ideas. You could quote someone. This would be a really nice place, y'all, to work in an allusion to or a discussion of the novel Frankenstein, or the creative nonfiction piece, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which were both really inspiration for this assignment. Make some kind of really interesting connection. Use an anecdote. Use some revealing statistics or facts, but something to make me care. I really think you should review chapter 7, this so what or who cares, and think about, especially in your conclusion, using these ideas. In other words, say why this topic matters. If I'm not involved in plastic surgery, if I'm not involved in with genetic engineering, why should I care about these topics? So again, a review of chapter 7 would be a great way to conclude your essay. And I really want you to think about doing something powerful in the introduction. Now, one more thing about your conclusion. Under no circumstance, let me say that one more time, under no circumstance should you repeat in your conclusion the points that you have just made in your essay. If this were a 12, 15, 20, 25 page essay, by the conclusion I might need you to repeat some things. But in a 4-page essay, I do not need you to repeat anything. I can remember what I read. So even though you've been taught to do that, some of you, I don't want you doing that. I want you to find a more interesting way to conclude your essay. A nice way to do that would be to pay attention to chapter 7. All right, let's talk a little bit about flow and style. One of the things I want you to review in your essay is chapter 5. That is the chapter that talks about distinguishing what you say from what they say, and it talks a lot about voice markers. I want you to pay attention to voice markers, all right, and what they mean. Moving back and forth between ideas is going to be really important in terms of creating flow. Voice markers can help you do that. Another thing that I want you to really review in your book, you'll find this on page 104, is this whole notion of sentence arms. Okay, it's really, really goofy, but it's really, really important. Every single sentence should be connected to the sentence both before it and after it. This is where you're really using transitions, but not only transition words, voice markers, meta commentary, but simply drawing ideas from one sentence to the next so that your ideas flow very nicely, so the ideas dance, if you will, very nicely, and instead of kind of hopping around from point to point to point. Read back through your essay and make sure every sentence connects to the sentence before it and after it. That is absolutely essential. All right, one more review of meta commentary here. So meta commentary is chapter 10, and I really think you should come and review chapter 10 when you're writing your final draft. Especially want you to think about using meta commentary to clarify and elaborate. Pay attention to this. Use the art of meta commentary. Develop your ideas. Generate more ideas. Make sure that you've said everything you can and need to say about your essay. Use the templates for meta commentary, insert them. This will make your essay flow beautifully. This paragraph suggests that you think of your text as 2 texts. So you have a main text in which you're making your argument, and you have another text, kind of a subtext, where you're working your ideas and distinguishing your views from what others. These are those voice markers, answering objections, connecting one point to another. There's our sentence arms, and explaining how your claim might be controversial and so forth. So all of this meta commentary is really, 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 really important. You almost can't overuse it. So really think about doing that. The final thing that I would like you to take a look at is chapter 4, and that is the I Say chapter in your book. In that chapter, there are 3 sections: agreeing but with a difference, disagreeing with reasons, and then agreeing and disagreeing simultaneously. Every time in your essay you refer to a piece of research, an article, or something that someone else said or thought, I want you to think about using one of those 3 sections from chapter 4 to frame that information, so that you're not just agreeing or just disagreeing, but agree with a difference or disagree with reasons. Right? Review chapter 4. Okay, the last piece of information that I'd like to give you is to talk just for a second about quotation sandwiches. In a good quotation sandwich, you introduce the person who said the quote, but you also provide context for that person. Who is that person? Why does that person matter? where and when did this person make this claim? What was the context? More than just a name, more than just Caroline Goodman said, but instead you said, distinguished English teacher from St. Mary's Episcopal School in Memphis, Tennessee, claimed that blank. More kind of information or top slice of bread, and then you make sure that after every quotation you follow that with an analysis of or a statement about why you've used that quote. Please go back to your text and review quotation sandwiches and make sure that you include that information when you write. I know this is a lot of information to take in. Use your checklist. Use your checklist, listen to this screencast again if you need to, and really focus some time this weekend to do an extra good job. I am so proud of your work so far, and I look forward to seeing what you bring to me Monday. Good luck, and shoot me an email if you have any questions.